If you are new to Blender and want to learn how you can do something like this, then you've come to the right place. And I'm going to be teaching you everything that you need to know if you're an absolute beginner. So to start, I'm going to be showing you guys the sketch I did the other day. This is going to be basically the design that we're going to be modeling, and it's kind of the typical process that I would take whenever I do something that you see on my Instagram. Is that I'll do a quick sketch and I'll do a plan, and then I'll just start modeling straight away. I'll start by doing the basic block out modeling, which is just really, really simple boxes and anything that shows the overall bulk of the form. So we're going to be starting out by doing that, and then we're going to be adding a little bit more detail by adding textures and materials and a bit of furniture. And then we're going to be taking a little bit further by showing the HDRI. We're going to be bringing in some cool sunlight. Then we're going to be doing a render and then editing it in post-production. So it's going to be a pretty good series. I think you will learn a lot from this. And I really wanted to do a beginner focused tutorial because Blender is getting a lot of attention and a lot of people are wanting to learn, and I want to be able to help people that are just getting into it and help you get to that next level as well. So even if you're not an absolute beginner, I still think you should watch this because you might learn a thing or two. So we are in Blender 4.0. Basically, what we're going to be doing is deleting, it's an age-old joke. We're going to delete this box. We're going to delete everything by clicking on it and pressing delete. Or you can drag and then highlight it and press delete. Control Z is undo. So a lot of Blender is going to be the hotkeys. And just over time, you're going to learn, what hotkeys you need to use, and it just saves so much time. So, to start off, we're going to go Shift A, and that brings up the menu to add whatever you want to add when it comes to the mesh, curves, surfaces, text, images. You can even import like background images, lights, cameras, action. Sorry, that was a bad joke. So we're going to just start out, and it's a joke because we just deleted a cube, but we're going to add another cube. So we've got this cube in here, and what I'm going to do quickly is I really recommend you guys download a program called PureRef. I'll leave a link in the description. It's free. And pretty much this is something that you can just keep over the top of Blender and it'll just stay there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck my reference design image just so that we know what we're working with. And this first episode, I guess, is just going to be pretty basic modeling, so we're just gonna flesh it out. But to start with, because I did a plan of this, I roughly know what it's going to look like. So you might have noticed I just made this cube a little bit smaller and bigger. Basically, if you want to edit the object, you click on it, you press tab, and then you can kind of hold middle mouse and orbit around it. And you can click on each face and then edit them individually. So to be able to move things, you can either come over here to the move bar, which might be easy when you're first starting out, but I press G to move, and it's kind of a weird hotkey. A lot of the hotkeys aren't going to be like Control G, it'll just be G, and I assume it's probably G for grab. But if you feel a little bit uncertain about using hotkeys initially, I recommend just going over here. These are pretty much all the tools you'll need to use. So I'm just going to roughly make this a little bit smaller. So we're pretty much making the floor right now. And we're going to be making this a little bit down here. And then we're going to be making a camera and then doing more work in the camera. So say this is the floor. I think that's probably quite accurate, maybe. We'll see. The next step, now that we've got the floor, is to go Shift A again. We're going to go Camera and left click on the camera. And then down over here, we've got all our, tools when it comes to the the world tools or anything like that. So anything around rendering, like you know, your exposure or the render engine you're going to use, all of that kind of stuff is down here. It's gonna seem a little bit complicated to start with, but for now we're just gonna come down to the camera properties, and we are gonna change this to maybe 35 millimeters to start with, just because it's a good solid measurements to work from. And then on your number key, your number pad, you're gonna press 0, and that'll actually zoom you to your camera. But that camera is actually way down there. So another really useful tip is to just orbit around with the middle mouse button, and you can also hold shift and orbit just to pan. So we're going to use both of those kind of actions to get it roughly where you want the camera to be, and then we're going to go Control Alt 0. And that's actually going to move the camera to where you're looking in the viewport, which is really useful. And the next step is I actually want this to be a vertical render, as you can see. So I'm going to come across here to the output, and I'm going to change this to 1080 by 1350. And that's basically a 4:5 crop with a 1080 resolution. So if you ever go out of this out of the camera view, you can just press 0 to go back into it. And while you're in the camera view, you want to go press G, and that will basically mean that you can move the camera in the camera view, which is very, very important to be able to do. And then another really important thing is you can see these red and green lines down here on the bottom left corner. These are your axes. So the Y axis, if you come here on the top right, your Y is in the green and your X is in the red, and then your Z is up. So if you ever did like math or whatever, you'll probably learn like graphs and stuff. It's just the same concept. And it just basically means that if you press G and then you press X, we're going to be moving the camera on the X axis. And that's super, super useful to be able to do. And then you can also press G and then Y, and we're going to be moving it on the Y axis. So if you want to be really accurate, you need to be comfortable with doing that. This is just pressing G for move, and then we're going to go Z. So whenever you can do that with anything. So I can move this 4, click on it, and then go G, Z, or G, or you don't even need to click off. You can just swap between the thingies there. So now that we've kind of got the basics underway, we're just going to go G and then X to move on the X axis. And then we're just going to roughly get that floor looking pretty good. I've got some flatmates moving in, so if you guys can hear some noise, I apologize for that. So I think that's a pretty good start. If we just make this a similar size and then zoom that in, it's kind of pixelated, but you get the idea. And I didn't really draw this like super accurately, but I think what we're going to do next is just to add some walls and see where that takes us. Another really important thing I find is useful is if you click on the camera up here in the collection and come down here to the object data properties, a little green camera, we are going to go down to the viewport display, and where it says pass apart out, we're going to make this 1, and that just means that it's not distracting. I find like when you're in this mode, it's really hard to see the composition, and there's just too much. It's like the same vibe as if you're taking a photo. You close the eye that's not in the viewfinder so that you can focus purely on what's through the through the camera lens. So we're going to press Shift A again. We're going to mesh, and we're going to go cube. So another really important tool that you guys should be using pretty much as soon as you can, snapping. It's absolutely vital. So if we come up here, we're going to go click on snapping, and we're going to go vertex. So your vertex is the corners of the object. So if I move this cube up here just with G, I'm going to tab into it. And over here, there's on the select mode, we're going to go vertex. So these are your vertices. And you may have learned this in math class or whatever. And you can edit these with G and whatever axes as well. Like you can do the same thing for everything. And the reason why that's important is because if we move this with G, now we can press hold control and it will snap the nearest vertice to the other object vertice. And the reason why this is absolutely vital is because when you're working with ArcViz or any kind of realistic modeling, you don't want light to leak in between objects, and that will just ruin the immersion. And it's just good to be precise. So I always snap things, unless it's like vegetation, planting trees. I'm like literally, whenever it's modeling a house, I'm snapping like that. So another bad joke. So I'm going to press 0 on the number pad again, and I'm going to tab into this cube, and I'm going to come across to here. I'm going to go the face select, and this is the normal mode that you see when you're in an object. And I'm just going to roughly bring this in with G and then Y, and then I'm going to click on this face here. I'm going to go G and X, and then I'm just going to bring this out. And we're just fleshing this out a little bit. We're just kind of building the walls. And I think that's roughly pretty good. If you come across here, there's this little mini arrow next to the axes. We're going to click that. And then it says basically the dimensions here. And these dimensions are 5.18 meters. So that is quite tall. I want to go 2.4 meters. And you can see how small that is. So with accurate scale, we actually want to be like in here, kind of. That's feeling better. And so now this walkway, just so that we can kind of begin to model a little bit more accurately, I want this walkway to be 1.5 meters. So I'm going to go Shift A, cube, I'm going to press G and then Control to snap. And then this is a 2 meter cube. All the cubes in here are 2 meters. So if I look at this axis here, this is the Y axis. So on the Y axis, I'm going to make this 1.5. And that's really useful because you can actually input your dimensions without even needing to drag anything. And that saves a lot of time. So I'm going to snap down. And then I'm actually going to go, another really useful tool is Shift D for duplicate. And once you've pressed that, you'll just be able to like move this around. Now we're going to go Y. Okay. And we're just going to drag it along this axis, and then we're just going to click off. And then we're going to go G, Y. We're going to move it, and then we're going to snap with Control. I know this is really complicated, but take your time. Once you get used to this, you'll be like a legend at modeling, and you're going to be able to model so quickly. So just don't stress if you're becoming a little bit overwhelmed by all the hotkeys. This is purely so that we can, get the right distance. Another method is, if you wanted to, you could duplicate it. We could snap back with Control and G, and then we can move it on apologies. We can move it on the y-axis, and then we can actually type in dimensions away from the starting point. So literally, without doing anything, we're just in the move mode. I can type 1.5 and then enter, and we've just moved this 1.5 meters from there. So that's another method. And then if we go back to the camera view, you can see we're starting to be a little bit more realistic when it comes to that. But you can see this wall actually stops quite a bit shorter. So we're going to actually just guesstimate by going back into the camera view with 0. We're going to just bring this in just so that we kind of get it roughly where we want it, and then we're going to tab out of that. So in the camera, we just need to center this. So we're going to go G and then Y. I think that's looking pretty good. Yep. And it's really important to save. I just realized I haven't saved yet. And I need to actually come up with a name. With my numbering system, I normally go the year, the month, and the day. And then we're going to call this Clear Story. No. It's kind of got a cabin vibe. We're going to go Urban Cabin. Cabin. That's so embarrassing. All right. And just go enter. And so you just go Control S to save, or you can come up here to File and then Save. Cool. And then now, because you can see this wall actually continues up into beams. Sorry, not beams, columns. And then and then you've got the roof that's kind of angling. So to start with, we're going to create a roof. So we're going to stop making cubes. We're just going to duplicate things now. So we're going to click on that. We're going to go Shift D and then Z. And we're going to duplicate it on the Z axis. Okay, so roughly we're just moving this up. And then we're going to rotate, okay, because obviously it's an angled roof. We're going to rotate by pressing R, and then we're going to rotate on the X axis. So we're going to press X after R. So we're going to rotate it on the X axis. Or it might be Y for you, depending on that. So just go R, go try X, Y, and Z, and whatever one works is the one you need to do. So what I'm going to do initially is just to create another cube, and I'm just going to roughly figure out what kind of height I want this window to be. So that's 800. We might do a meter. I don't know what that is in feet for anyone that's imperial. I'm not really a fan of imperial. Sorry, people that use imperial. I actually built a house in America using imperial, and that was a nightmare. So anyway, sorry, I've probably just offended every American here, but if you're not offending a few people a day, I don't think you're really living. You know what I mean? Just my 2 cents. So what I'm gonna do is I've just made another cube, and I'm in edit mode, and I'm just clicking on the faces, and I'm just dragging. I'm just gonna make a column roughly. I think, what are they gonna be? We're gonna type in the dimensions 0.9 by 0.9. Oh no, let's just go 0.1 by 0.1. So that's 100 mils. And then we're going to line that up with the inside of the wall. And then, yeah, I think, oh, actually, no, let's do it with the outside. I think that would be cool. And then we're just going to go back into tab mode. We're just going to drag this up. And then we are going to, let's see, what angle is this? That's 6 degrees. We're going to make this 23.5 degrees. But the important part is we want to make sure that the lower point is at least 2.7 meters. So another really important thing, if you're ever lining something up, is if you hold Alt and you drag your middle mouse button, you can go into what is called the orthographic mode. And this is just looking in like plan or elevation. If you're like in architecture, you might already know what that is, but yeah. And then this just means that you can kind of drag this over and then snap to the 2.4 point, and then you can just drag across and then snap to that point. So you can just start to model really, really accurately. And I'm starting to see that actually that's like, because of the span there, that might not be feasible. What I might do instead, yeah, you can kind of see for this to be usable, that's not really going to be possible. So we might make this angle 15 degrees. And then we're going to come up and just snap to that point. And then that means if we duplicate this across, that means that we kind of have this space here before it reaches below 2.4 meters. And I feel like that might not be enough. So what I might do is I might actually make this spring point 2.7 meters. Just use it. Sorry, I might be losing my voice. So we're just using the kind of standard wool heights in my country, but it might be different in yours. Yeah, that's feeling a little bit better. And then if that's 2.7 there, we can make that 2.4. It's not really that important when it comes to arcviz because it's all just down to perception. You don't really want a space that feels, like just weird. People know immediately if it's wrong just by your eye. So while you don't have to be exactly accurate, it needs to be pretty good. So I think that's probably quite good. If we go back 0 into that mode, we can kind of see if it's working. Now, this actually feels too big now. So we're going to just go into the tab to edit. We're going to snap to here, and then we're going to drag it back, and we're going to write 6 meters. Okay, that feels pretty good. Now I'm actually getting some kind of interesting architectural ideas. I think what might be nice is if we Shift D this out. This could be actually a wall that continues, and then the glazing kind of stops here, the roof continues, the wall continues forward. And then we're going to just start to flesh out. We're not going to go into too much detail. We're going to rotate by holding R, pressing R and then holding Control. Now Control will actually allow you to snap to intervals. So we're going to, or what you could also do is just type 90. And then that will just mean that you're rotating exactly 90 degrees. And honestly, I use that probably the most. So we're just going to go back to press 0 in the number pad just to get an idea on where this should be. I'm kind of envisioning, as you can see in here, there's kind of trees and stuff out there. I'm kind of envisioning a bit of a courtyard. And I think that's pretty good. What I might do, I don't want to overload you guys with too much information, but Blender is great for its modifiers. So if I click on this and then I go across here to the modifiers, we're going to go add modifier. We're going to go search and array and then click on array. And then in the factor X, let's just drag that out just roughly to the gap that we want. So if we go back in our view, we can't actually see that because it's further back. But if we go G, where is it? Oh no, I just deleted it. If you accidentally delete something, just go Control Z. Let's just drag this out first. Cool. Now we can see it. Cool. And then what we're going to do is we can just change that distance however we want. And then we're going to go on the count. We're just going to increase that count. Let's go out of this mode for a second. You can be pretty, pretty chill about this kind of thing. I think that's pretty good. And then we're just going to duplicate this one more time. And then we're going to get rid of that modifier. So we're going to go on the remove modifier button. And we're going to rotate this. We're going to rotate this on the x-axis and we're going to type in 90. Now let's snap this up here. And we're just going to be creating this bar here. We tab into it and we're going to go grab on the 90, on the y-axis. And then tab out. Let's have a look. Cool. I think that's quite good. Let's just change this dimension though. On the z-axis. Oh, that's weird. Let's just see. No, we're gonna go 0.27. It's gonna be a 270 beam. And no, that doesn't feel right. We're gonna 0.14, 140. Cool. That's quite good. And I think that's quite good for now. And then what we might do is duplicate this roof. We're going to bring this down. This is kind of a cheat way to do this. And then we're going to make this 90. We're going to just get it roughly to what the size of the beam that we want. We're going to be doing these beams here. And we're going to make this 0.1. So we want these beams to line up. What are they? The rafters. We want the rafters to line up with these columns here. And we might actually, now that I'm looking at it, I might make this the full width so that it kind of just works better. Because you don't want something to feel like it's undersized. We're just going to add another array modifier. We're going to click on this. We're going to copy the factor. I'm going to paste the factor. Control C, Control V. And then we're just going to increase the count. Okay. So that's pretty good, I think. Let's go back into that mode. It feels a bit chunky, so it probably is. So on the z-axis, we're just going to make this 0.14. Is that right? They're just going to be kind of exposed rafters. We're going to make them 270 actually, 0.27. Ooh, that's a big difference. 190? Yeah, 190 is good. Oh, just deleted it. Okay, I think that's pretty good. We're starting to build out the scene. Let's just, now that we're kind of got this a bit fleshed out, let's go back into the camera and then just move this around. I might actually make the focal length, if we go back to the camera settings, maybe we'll make it 30. Maybe 30 degrees. Yeah. I'm just thinking right from the get-go what the composition is going to look like. Maybe 50. No, actually, you know what's wrong? This is too narrow. We're gonna snap this back and we're gonna go 2 meters. Yeah, that feels better. Let's just bring this back. Yeah, that feels more generous. So we'll just increase this walkway size. And actually this needs to come up to kind of clash with that. And I actually want to show that intersection, so we're going to line it up with that one there. Yeah, that feels better. Let's just move this camera forward or back. And we'll definitely change this as we go. but I think that's probably a good start. We're gonna just add one more beam where you can kind of see. So we're duplicating this. You'll just start duplicating everything and then just changing it to what you want. It's pretty normal. Let's just click on this. We're going to go across some modifiers. We're going to remove the array modifier. We're going to snap to this beam here. We're going to just change this to 0.1 by 0.1. We're going to go into X-ray mode. So if you come up here, we're going to click on that toggle X-ray button, and you can just drag and click, just so you don't need to go right up to it and find that thing, if I can use my words properly. I think that's quite good. Let's just bring that all the way up. Cool. I think that's quite a good start. I think we'll definitely change this as we go, but we've got the framework in to then start looking at the other aspects like lighting, materiality, furniture, anything like that. So I think this is a really good first episode to kind of get you into using Blender and pretty basic things, like moving things around, snapping, resizing, rotating. So next week we're going to be getting into the materiality of this project, and I'm really looking forward to that. If you want to see more of my work, check it out on Oliver Higgins Architecture on Instagram. Give me a follow, have a look at the work I'm doing, and if there's something that you like, let me know, because I'll do a behind the scenes of it if I haven't already. If you want to see some of my behind the scenes, have a look on my YouTube channel. There's quite a few there. And it can kind of give you a bit of inspiration maybe for what is possible in Blender. I've been doing this for about 3 years now, and yeah, I'm pretty happy where I'm at, and I want to help you guys get to where you want to go to. So I'll see you next week. Cheers.